Two big divisional rivals, both who have a dire need to get a win in week 2. This is the matchup that we've been waiting for. The Cleveland Browns heading into Baltimore to take on Lamar Jackson. This game comes down to the run game. Now, I might understand the perspective of Brown fans saying Joe Flacco passed the rock around very well. Now, I want to talk about Dylan Sampson here immediately right off the bat, and I want to talk about Derrick Henry, because Dylan Sampson was a great back in the SEC, the running back of the year. This guy was terrific for Tennessee, a big reason why that they made their first appearance in the college football playoff, bringing them back to relevancy in the scheme of college football. They need to get the football to him more. I know 12 carries for 30 yards, he was limited, but to beat the Baltimore Ravens, you need to control the time of possession and keep your defense off of the field, even though you have a Myles Garrett who was, what words do we have to describe Myles Garrett anymore? Let's just say 2 sacks and 4 tackles for loss, and that doesn't even half describe the impact he had in that game against Cincinnati, having such a great impact. And then shout out to Carson Schweschinger. These guys are going to make life tough on Derrick Henry, but establishing Dylan Sampson, getting him the ball. As of the recording of this, the status of Quinshon Judkins is a no. Will he play? Not taking that into consideration of the matchup of this game. Now, if he were playing, would he have a factor that he has an impact in the game? Sure. I mean, we're talking about a guy that won a national championship last year, but we're going off of what we know. What we know right now is that we don't know if he's going to be playing. Let's talk about Derrick Henry, because that was one of the best performances in NFL history that will kind of be forgotten. He had 175 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, untackleable at times. 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, almost 10 yards a carry, but a key fumble in the fourth quarter that gets the Bills right back in the game. They get the touchdown, they don't get the 2, then they get the ball right back, and they beat you right as time expires. So obviously heartbreaking, a game that the Ravens were dying to play, thinking about for 5 months, 6 months, the entire offseason. It gets there. They're playing great. They look like the best team in football, clearly, easily. And then Buffalo just comes back on them. So what I'm expecting to see is a lot of Lamar Jackson keepers. He had 70 yards and a touchdown in this game. Derrick Henry, they gave him the ball 18 times. Why not give him the ball 23 times and pounding the rock? If there's one guy that can stop him, it's who we all know, number 95 in brown or orange or whatever color they're going to be wearing on Sunday. Besides just the key players for this, we need to talk about a guy that got a lot of credit for a good performance, but he had one of the more special catches, and I believe he has a big impact and should be a big part of the game plan against Cleveland, because Denzel Ward is going to be on Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers had 143 yards and a touchdown. If you had him in fantasy, congratulations, he had close to 30 points. But DeAndre Hopkins' one-handed catch against Buffalo was one of the best catches easily of week 1, would have easily been one of the nominees for catches of the year last year. Those hands are massive. He's able to just snag the ball out of the air. And so we saw a number of great performances, elite plays get made, and everybody's just going to talk about the reigning MVP, Josh Allen, and I don't think that's fair, and it will certainly not be for the Cleveland Browns who have to deal with that. They also have to deal with being 12.5-point dogs going up against their rival. Obviously, that doesn't feel good because you're 0-1. This is our divisional rival. We want to beat them. So what will that come down to? Well, Joe Flacco, we need to take care of the football in this game. We're going to try and attack. There's Marlon Humphrey out there. They got Jair Alexander now, and then they got Malachi Starks and Hamilton and Roquan Smith. Like, they have so many guys in that back, the second and third level of that defense. Where are the opportunities? Flacco, can we have a game where you throw for 246 and a touchdown and don't turn the football over and keep the team in games and don't hurt your football team? I haven't talked about the missed kick. I know all Cleveland fans that might be watching this, or Baltimore's like, you haven't talked about the missed kick. They could have beat Cincinnati. I get that, but that game felt a lot more in hand for Cincinnati. And who's to say that Cincinnati doesn't go right down the field and get a field goal themselves. So I'm not going to hear the excuse and the talk about it. We've seen them lose so many games that way. It's just not worth going into it anymore. What I will go into more and give a ton of credit for is he held Joe Burrow to 113 yards passing. Cincinnati running the football, only 46 yards. Like, you put up that performance defensively, but you were able only to muster 49 yards rushing yourself. That's a telltale sign that you've got two teams that struggled, that were undisciplined, that had a ton of penalties. Cleveland had the ball for 36 minutes to Cincinnati's 24, and yet you're not able to fully lean on that team running the football. That's the key. And I actually believe that once Quinshon Judkins, who a lot of Ohio people already love, or later on in the season and throughout his career, can be one of the premier players in the AFC as a guy that is just able to get 19 carries in a game and carry that team. I really wish that they had him in this game healthy and prepared, because he is that type of explosive back that they really could use. A guy that Cleveland does have and that they are going to utilize, obviously, is their talented wide receiver on the outside in Jerry Jeudy. I love the tight end also out of Bowling Green, Harold Fannin Jr., a great playmaker. You need those types of guys that are those big body threats for your tall quarterback and Flacco over the middle. Finding him in space is going to be tricky. Getting the ball to your wide receivers, right? Njoku. So a lot of targets to the tight ends. Cleveland needs to come out, get the ball to Njoku, get the ball to Fannin early and often, establish the physicality. I'd run a ton of 12 personnel. Baltimore, like Chris Collinsworth said on the broadcast, they just question your manhood out there. And that's exactly what happens in this rivalry. Cleveland tries to do the exact same thing. They just commit too many penalties. Under Stefanski, they've just been way too undisciplined, hurting themselves at times, backing themselves up, pre-snap stuff, after the play stuff, the unnecessary things where you've made a good play and it's over. Just get ready for the next snap, the whistle, and you just keep being a little bit extra with it. That's been the story of the Cleveland Browns my entire life. None of that. Go out there, play a clean game, be physical, play as hard as you can. But can we have a game where Cleveland has 3 penalties for 25 yards, 4 penalties for 30, like something like that, where it's not the penalties that end up hurting them. They're able to rely on good quarterback play. Joe Flacco making the right decisions, because to be honest, as a fan, I don't have a rooting interest in this game. I want to see good football, both sides. You know who played a lot of good football in week 1? The Baltimore Ravens did. That's why a lot of people are high on them, had them as their Super Bowl pick, getting to the Super Bowl, winning the AFC. Obviously, a huge damper is put on that against Buffalo by losing that game, because Buffalo could now get the 1 seed. Baltimore is going to be 2 games trailing behind Buffalo, because they'll have to finish 1 game above them to get higher seeding, to be able to get a playoff game in their place, instead of having to go to Orchard Park once again, even though Orchard Park was the site where a lot of their own fans were leaving the game late in that second half. Holy cow. One of the best football games that we've ever seen. A game that sets the bar for the rest of the 2025 season with a ceiling so high it's practically untouchable. That's what the rest of the football season is going to look like. Excuse me, like, good luck being able to touch that. On the side of the Baltimore Ravens, that concern me a little bit, obviously the pass coverage, right? You give up 394 yards, 2 touchdowns to Josh Allen. Keon Coleman goes off. The big targets, we talked about Fannin. I talked about Njoku. You have to expose those matchups. You need to go attack that part of the defense if you are Cleveland, getting it to your big bodies on the outside and utilizing that, because Marlon Humphrey, the guy's not 6'3". Kyle Hamilton is 6'3", but he plays in the middle of the defense. Keep the ball out of the middle. It seems that every time Joe Flacco throws a pick, it's underthrown to the outside where a corner's able to jump it, or it's a tip or overthrow to the middle of the field. So shots to the outside, getting the ball to your tight end. So if you do overthrow him, the guy's 6'6", and has a 37, 38, 39-inch vertical and come down and make a play on it, and is not going to be overthrown. So Joe Flacco, I'm really thinking that you need to go out there and have a performance, look like your former self. He's had flashes almost every game the past couple of years as the starter for them, but seeing him consistently do it, because I believe that Cleveland can be good enough in this game to keep it within that margin. That's why I'm picking Cleveland to cover the spread of 12.5, but not win this game. I believe that the Browns will lose by a score of 26-17. I think they lose by 9 points. That Baltimore is able to maintain control. Cleveland's able to keep the game close. But again, an 0-2 start to their 2025 season. Very frustrating, and you come out with two immediate divisional losses. That's just about as bad as it gets to be able to compete and have high hopes going into the next year. Mason Graham in the middle of that defense, great player. Let's see more out of him. He's going to have the tough task immediately of stopping Derrick Henry. He did a great job against Ohio State, against Alabama, against a number of teams in his college career. So now you get the reward of getting to tackle Derrick Henry. Carson Schwessinger versus Derrick Henry. That sound, that impact sound is what we're waiting for. Derrick Henry versus Schwessinger. They fit and match in the hole. And what happens? Did they both go backwards and there's an explosion and the TV turns off? Is that what's going to happen? Does Henry knock him over, give him a stiff arm? Does Schwessinger knock him backward on his butt? I'm fascinated. What happens? After the first time that happens, what happens the second time that happens? What will be the result? That is one of the most fun things that we're looking forward to in this game. That is fully an underrated element. Carson Schwessinger, the rookie out of UCLA, the Big Ten playmaker a year ago, taken high in the second round by Cleveland. How does he do tracking Lamar Jackson sideline to sideline? That's why they took him so high. For moments like this against a mobile quarterback, and Lamar you have to face twice a year, against running backs like Derrick Henry that you will have to go up against. How does he fare and how does Cleveland fare? So 27 to 17, excuse me. They get the win. So please let me know down below who wins this game and why. Curious what your thoughts are. Does Cleveland pull the upset? Does Baltimore win by a much wider margin than that? Let me know down below what you think will happen in this game. Please subscribe for more content in the future. It is so fun to preview and break down these upcoming matchups and see what the results are, see where I'm right, and ultimately see where I am wrong. And hopefully that we have a great game this upcoming Sunday. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Thank you.